A special kind of modifier problem is called a squinting modifier. In a squinting modifier, the modifier is very close. In fact, it can be right next to the thing that it modifies. But the problem is it's also next to something that it could modify, which would change the meaning of the sentence. In effect, you can't tell which way the modifier is looking, and that's where the term squinting modifier comes in. Let's take a look at an example of one of these. My dad said last year he was tired. Okay. Last year is the modifier, but the problem is there's two things that it can modify. On one side of the modifier is said. If this is what it's supposed to modify, then it would mean that he said it last year. On the other side of the modifier, or on the other side of the modifier, is the phrase he was tired. Again, it could be that he said, it could modify in both of these directions. And so even though it's next to the thing that it's going to modify, the fact is it's between two potential things that it could modify. And so the meaning of the sentence is ambiguous. To fix this, you want to move the modifier out from between the two things that it could modify. Let's look at an example of this sentence. Last year, my dad said he was tired. Okay. Now in this case, last year is very clearly modifying when he said it, because it's closer to said than it is he was tired. So if I said my dad said last year he was tired, you can't tell whether he's saying it last year or whether he was tired last year. In this case, last year my dad said he was tired is more clearly modifying that he said it. Whereas if I said my dad said he was tired last year, in this case, last year modifies when he was tired. Okay, so in this case, either of these examples are not squinting modifiers. Whereas in the first case, this last year is called a squinting modifier because it's between two things that it can potentially modify. Let's look at another one of these, because sometimes this can be tricky. The sentence says, MUHS students who get summer jobs only help their chances of getting into college. Let's look at this word only. There's two different ways you could read this sentence. MUHS students who get summer jobs only. So summer jobs is the thing that's being modified. Or it could modify help. It only helps their chances. And you can't tell whether you mean this to modify summer jobs or whether you mean this to modify help. So it's an example of a squinting modifier. If you mean that they don't get any other kind of jobs, and that's what helps them get into college, so they don't get jobs during the school year, then what you mean is MUHS students who get only summer jobs help their chances of getting into college. Okay. Now only is still modifying summer jobs, but it's not squinting because it can't also modify help here. And so the way to fix a squinting modifier is to move it to the other side of the thing that you mean it to modify, so that it's not sitting in between two things that it could potentially modify.